Yeah, I can use free cam, but I don't want to use free cam. So, all right, aggressive, back, and drive. That's better. All right. So, first thing first. Now, in the simulator, maybe in the real track, you always have some clues from where the braking zone start, but in the simulator is even more clear to understand. So you can see here, and I hope you can see the mouse right now. I'll see also if you can see it. I've made it a little bit more evident. You can see where the braking marks start, and that gives you an indication that more or less, you should start braking somewhere here. But do not take as a braking reference point either shadows or braking marks, tire marks on the road, because those things can change, right? And because they can change, I mean, it can rain, it can be a green track, or the marks might change the position of where they start. So don't do that. Instead, take it as an indication and come closer and see if you can get a different mark. So for example, here we have the 100 meters mark distance from the turn, which is something you can use, but be careful, because usually those little things, if an accident happens and the car goes on top of that, it will break it into pieces, and you are going to lose your braking mark. So what you can use? Well, you can use, for example, this Marshall point. That's a good indication. Also, on the asphalt, you can see here there is a white line. This is another good indication. So for now, we're going to use those two things, the white line here and the Marshall post here. And it's not like we are going to try and brake exactly here. We are going there slowly. So lap after lap, we will try to get sooner. We will try to get closer and closer on that braking point, but we might not even ever make it to be exactly there. But it's still a good braking reference point to use, and so we have an indication on more or less where we have to brake. All right. So let's move on. Yeah, I know the tire pressure is low. So somewhere around here we start to, turn in, and we will probably want to go over the curb. So let's see how the curb is, and boop. You see that's it's a little bit of, of a bump here on the curb. You see that if you take the curb like this, whoop, there is a little bit of a bump. But if you take it a little bit later and you go on the bump a little bit later, it's much smoother. You can see here it's much smoother, while here there is a tiny bit of a bump. So we have to keep that in mind and not go inside way too soon, but just a little bit later. Okay, so that's another good indication. Okay, so this seems pretty smooth. Here is our exit point, and then this turn follows, and we'll have to see how we can get this turn, which normally should be flat out. Once again, I mean, instead of asking setups, ask replays, ask videos. Go see a real video. We even have, a proper real racing driver like David Perel, which has made a video for Kyalami here to explain how you should drive. So first thing, ask a replay, ask a video. Don't ask setups, and we're gonna prove this tonight. All right. So moving on here, we must have a line, a trajectory to make this turn flat out. And then again we have to move completely to the outside of the road here at the right side and find somewhere to brake, but I can't see any braking reference points around here. Maybe this, you can see this, um, the guardrail becoming orange, but it's way too forward, and I'm afraid that if I come here it will be too late. I will try, but I think it's going to be too late uh, to brake here. So we'll have to see what we can do. All right, so in again, out again. This place of the circuit is very wide, so maybe we should keep that in mind and try, to bring lots of speed inside, even if it seems like a 90-degree turn that it's pretty slow. All right, move on again. Okay, so here we have this very fast bend. Now, usually a nice indicator of where to start braking is when a curb starts. Here on the side of the road we have the curb starting, and we have also the white line again at 50, I believe, 50 meters. Yes, exactly, here it is. So this might be a good indication of either start braking, but it seems to me a little bit too far away for this very fast turn, or maybe release the accelerator and go coasting in. I don't know. We'll have to try and see, but it seems a little bit too early for me. Um, Another indication could be this orange here and here, this orange paint. It might be a good mark to try a much in the turn braking zone. So because in this turn you arrive really fast, you just touch the brakes a little bit, you go in coasting, you try to lose some speed, but without a proper braking zone. But we'll see about this. Now again, when we are here, uh, let me go just a tiny bit. Okay, further back. So here we have another orange point. Now this seems to be more or less at the apex of the turn, and it could be an indication that once we have been, we are over this, maybe we can go on the accelerator again and, power slide our way out of the turn. So we can keep that in mind. Now, I'm going through the whole track right now, as we said, and trying to understand what are the best points for braking, acceleration, and so on. Uh, if you're not able to remember everything, take notes, write it down. Take notes of everything. It helps. It really helps. It helps you create a mental map of the whole circuit. I mean, real drivers, once they have been on the circuit, then they will go even to their motorhome again, and they will just, close their eyes and start thinking mentally how to go to the circuit, where to brake, where to turn in, and so on. So take your notes. Don't be afraid. Uh, this thing might seem boring, but it is very important work to do. All right, let's move on. Again, we go wide here and return again to the outside as much as we can. Now again, 50 meters here, there's also a white line again here, which is very handy, but again it seems a tiny bit too early. So I will keep in mind that I might be needed to brake after that, or even here where this tire wall or whatever that is stops, and you have this orange paint again. I might be able to brake here for the next turn, or somewhere in between the 50 meters mark point and this orange paint here. So again, let's remember this. Okay, turning in to this turn. Again, when you go too early in, there is a little bit of step instead of going gradually. So we should remember this. Now for this downhill chicane, you can see that the tire marks start here, and we have again once more ends in ties once more. So we have again once more at 50 meters, we have our white point here, and we also have the start of the external curb here. We can take those both of those braking points into account, and maybe find we can try the first lap here, and if we are too soon, we will move forward and go against the start of the curb. So around here we are at the middle of the lap. Let me check the oh, Chris Hay is here. Oh, hello, Chris. Guys, you need to go and subscribe on Chris Hay channel. I mean, if there is one guy that creates quality aesthetic, aesthetic content for Assetto Corsa Competizione or any other sim for that case, this is Chris. I mean, the guy has such a good taste. You have to subscribe to his channel. All right. So what else? So yeah. Trade Day says top screen has yellow, but marshals wave the green flag. Yes, of course, because the marshals we are looking at are the marshals after the stopped car. So once a car has, because I'm the car that I am provoking the yellow flag, right? So the cars that are approaching, they will see the previous marshal waving the yellow flag, and once they have overtaken me, they will see the next marshal waving the green flag, right? Okay, let's move on. Everything else is cool. Okay, so let's go down to this very tricky S corners. So I guess here we have to work a little bit over the curb, find ourselves somewhere. I believe that because steep uphill follows, we should try to stay as much as in the middle of the road at the exit of the first left corner, so that we can get a better entry on the second corner and go as flat out as we can here downhill to to get as much speed as possible, and then go uphill again. That would be important. So here in uphill, that's very, very tricky. I mean, you really can't see anything. It's completely blind. So I tend to go as straight line as possible. You see, I'm not turning at all. And somewhere here, there is no. I mean, there is nothing. There is here maybe, yeah, uphill. All right. Here I can see the curb starting, and maybe I can start braking here or here, but it's really difficult, and I believe that during a race or even worse during the night, it's going to be extremely difficult. So this is one of those corners that, yes, you have to try to find something, but in the end you have to go by by memory where to brake. All right, so in again. Now again, you can see a nice yellow colored wall here, and it can be a good indication that when you are close to it, somewhere in the middle of your cockpit, you can start applying throttle and try to exit this corner. Now this corner here, possibly if you do it properly, you can exit flat out, but if you do not have the correct line, or even the setup or whatever, you might get a little bit of wheel spin, and that might be, it's not very dangerous in this situation, but it can make you lose a lot of time. So, right, so Johannesburg is on the horizon, and we are going downhill. Now, this is pretty interesting. I'm gonna I mean, this very fast bend towards right, towards left, uh, it's relatively easy. But it also has some bumps in the middle of the turn, and it is very rubbered. So if you don't get correct the turn in, you might have issues and you might end very wide. My reference point for turning in is when I'm going exactly under this kind of bridge or whatever this thing is. So when I'm going exactly underneath it, then I will start, turning in, and I will try to use as less steering wheel as possible. Axel Petit says not easy on the wet. Yes, oh, absolutely. And the wet is a complete disaster. But let's leave that outside the equation, because otherwise it's gonna be really really tricky. Right. So you're gonna be ending somewhere here, and you should be pointing straight towards the outside left part of the road. Uh, there is a pretty interesting start of the guardrail in this zone on the left. So this is my reference point when I'm going at about this place. I will start, to brake as hard as I can, and I will try to brake again as straight as possible, because if I'm turning a little bit, obviously, I'm putting some weight on the external wheel tire and some less weight on the internal, so the ABS will start working asymmetrically. And if that happens, my braking zone will get longer and longer, and possibly I won't be able to turn in properly, or even if I do, I will lose my apex, which means I will lose time. So all of that is, keep into my mind. Now again, we go outside like this, up the hill again, and now this seems blind, but we have plenty of places to uh, get our braking zone marks. So orange paint here on the guardrail, start of the curb here, white line on the road here. All of that are indications that, okay, we can start, braking into this place. Now, the turn that follows is very tricky. We need to, you need to nail the turn in properly, because if you go over that sausage, yellow sausage over here, it's disaster. I mean, it really makes your car jump. Here's an advice that I can give you. Yes, obviously, if you're trying to do the perfect lap, you need to get as close to the sausage as possible. But if you're not trying for the absolute, you're still learning the track, you can stay a little bit wider and you can still make the turn properly. It's not that big deal as usual. Again, if you're trying the qualifying lap, or if you're trying, to be as fast as possible, you need to take your risks. But if you're in the race, then, maybe 20 centimeters outside, maybe it's the correct thing to do. All right, so move on outside here, and again completely to the right side. Again, another very easy braking zone. We have the 50 meters mark. Who's that? We have the 50 meters mark, and we have the Marshall posts again. So all of this helps us, to um, get. I think Steve K is subscribed. Thanks, mate. And Clive M. Johnson also subscribed some time ago, some minutes ago. So thank you very much, guys. So again, as I was saying, Marshall post here, 50 meters, and braking zone to the possibly most slow turn of the circuit. First gear here, with a bit of curb, and as good exit as possible for the very long straight that follows. All right. Okay, so let's actually, yeah, maybe we should, go to the pits now. completely break the immersion, but I mean, who cares? Okay, it's okay. Thanks, Jared Van Bergen, for the follow. And return to garage.